Hopefully you got a little bit of experience working with the different animations and adjusting the physics properties for those specific animations and seeing how they behave a little bit different with each one. Some of the more popular ones to work with are fire, which will move the particles upward and make them kind of spin around the way that like fire would move. And twirl can be interesting too. It kind of spins your particles around. And all the properties are going to work a little bit different for those, since fire is going up naturally. If you go and reverse it, it's going to go down instead. The extra property on it like spreads it out. So make sure you actually try out how these different properties will work within the different animations. Let me go ahead and reset my particle to get them back to where they were before. And now let's look at how to change the actual particles themselves. So up until now, we've just been looking at the line particles, which is good if you want to do like sparks shooting out, if you want to make like a sparkler, or if someone is welding and you want to show sparks coming out from it. But most of the time, you're probably going to use a different particle. There's a lot of different options in here. You have your stars, you have your bubbles. Bubbles is a pretty useful one if you want to make bubbles kind of go up the screen. Cubes, tetrahedron is one of my favorite ones to work with because it's a very interesting design and works well with like a more geometric looking art. But whichever one you set it on, as long as it's not line, you'll have the ability to change the birth and death size. And these lower ones down here, the lens ones, will actually use the color of your layer to color it. So just be aware of that. If you didn't pick a good color for your layer, it's going to look like whatever that layer color is. I'm going to go ahead and set mine to tetrahedron, and that's going to allow me to change both my birth and death size. So birth, as I was saying before, a lot changes the size when it comes out of the particle producer, and then death is the size that it's going to be when it starts to fade out. So if I lower my death size and I increase my birth size, I can kind of reverse it so that they start out much larger, and then they shrink in size as they go on. Or you can make any kind of adjustments. You can have them both be the same size, and that way they don't change size at all. And they just remain the same size the whole time, or you can adjust it in other ways if you like. But it needs to be off of line in order to get these size adjustments. You can also change the size variation, which is going to change the amount of variation within the size of the particles when they're being emitted. So right now we have a lot of different sizes. If you lower that, they're all going to be the same size. If you increase it, you're going to get more variation within your size. The opacity map will change the way that the particles behave as they go through their birth to death cycle. Right now it's set to fade out by default. You can also have them fade in so that they start invisible and they gain opacity as they go. You have them fade in and out, so they start and end invisible, and then they're more opaque in the middle. Constant will keep them visible the whole time. And then oscillate will have them kind of blink on and off as they go. Which sometimes works well if you don't have any physics on it and you just kind of have them appear and you want to make things look like they're popping on and off, like lights or something. Your max opacity is the maximum amount of opacity that your layers can have. If you crank it all the way up and set it to constant, you will get full opacity on your particles the whole time. Skip this one for now. So your color map. Up until now, we've been working with the colors that were predefined within the settings themselves. We had birth to death, which birth color is set to yellow, death color is set to red. You can change those colors now within the particles. So if you want to start with green and fade to like a blue or a purple, you have the ability to do that. Or you can even sample from your layer if you like. So if you click on the color map, you can do origin to death, which will sample your layer color in the beginning and then fade it out to your death color, or birth to origin, or even origin constant, which will only use your layer color. If you have multiple colors within this layer, like if you use a photograph or an illustration, wherever your producer is, that'll actually sample the color from that area. And if you have a really large producer on this, it'll sample all the colors within the area. So you can get multiple colored particles by having a different color background if you'd like, by using the origin. And then transfer mode will actually allow you to do black mat's not going to show up with my background, but you can do screen or add to kind of give it a blend mode within the particles themselves. Right, and then random seed is just going to kind of randomize it. So if you duplicate your particles and you want one to behave different than the other, you can use random seed to adjust that. So take some time, really experiment with the different types of particles, the different physics, try animating your producer around and seeing what that does. In the next lesson, we're actually going to look at a animation that we can do with this particle so you can see a practical use of it.